Murder and Such contains true stories about murders, the macabre, true crime, serial killers, and other dark subject matter. This includes adult themes, explicit language, descriptions of gore, violence, and other information provided by news articles, witness testimony, and public record. Murder and Such is not intended for all audiences, and although warnings will be set in place, listener discretion is still advised.
Hello, and welcome back to Murder and Such. I am your host Hunter, and I thank you for being here with me. The first order of housekeeping is that I would like to address how humbling it is for me to look at my Apple Podcast reviews and see that I finally hit over 400 reviews, and that's all thanks to you guys. If you would like to, and you're able to, head on over to Apple Podcasts and write a 5-star review, or just drop the 5-star little button thing right there. But thank you to all of you who left me a review. I truly appreciate every single one of you. Sure, sometimes I'm at a loss with how the show used to be and my shitty rants that I would go on, but for those of you who have stuck by with me and have sent me your love and support, I thank you guys. But one thing I'd like to address is something that came to my attention with one of my favorite followers on Twitter by the name of Michael Munster, who questioned about how much they support the show just by listening to it. Well, Michael, as I said in my retweet, listening to the show, following the show on all social media platforms, tweeting about it, feedback about the show, and even taking time out of your day to spend with me while I talk about some truly horrible people is all a form of support. And that's what podcasting is all about. Because in all reality, I'm just a 30-something Iowa transplant who lives in Dayton who never thought they'd be making a bi-weekly show about true crime. Nobody ever really knows if their podcasting endeavors are going to work out the way that they want, but we all still do it. So to every podcaster, a listener is important, and taking feedback is just as important. That's what podcasting is all about. Whether it's a show about Dungeons and Dragons, or a show about dating and relationships, technology and video games, or even just mass murdering fuckheads, if you have listeners, you have support. So thank you, Michael, and don't stress about it. Speaking of support, I would like to thank my newest patrons, including one by the name of Becky Mockford from across the pond. So thank you, Becky, for jumping on the Patreon page, and I'm glad that you got your stickers. I'd also like to thank a lovely local lady by the name of Alex Aguirre for joining the page and her generous donation per episode. So thank you very much, Alex. I appreciate you. Another new patron by the name of Justin Reebsum has also decided to join the Patreon page and is also offering a very generous donation as well. But not only that, you'll also hear original songs made by Justin in this episode as he reached out to me on Instagram and offered his services. So Justin, thank you so very fucking much for that. It's incredibly nice of you. And if you'd like to help out with offsetting the cost of research, editing, and post-production, you can join the Patreon for just $1 an episode at patreon.com/murderandsuch, or you can find the link at murderandsuch.com. A couple more shoutouts I'd like to toss out there is one to a new follower in the area by the name of Shania Wibbles that I shipped some stickers to. Also, a big thank you to Jared Steele, who reached out to me on Facebook, who surprisingly was in prison with Nathaniel Barjona from episode 23. So thank you, Jared. I'm glad to hear you and your wife got your stickers, and I look forward to talking to you some more. And I want to throw my deepest and warmest of wishes and condolences to a listener by the name of Martha Pierce, who had recently just lost her uncle. I know that you're going to get through this, and although it seems like the sadness and loss is constant, it will get better over time. So please, Martha, keep your chin up, remember the best of times, and you will most definitely get through this. I swear. But a big thank you to you. Yes, you. The person who is listening to this right now. Thank you for being here. I'm going to do something a little bit different with this episode, but similar to what I did with the Toronto van attack. For those of you who have listened to it, you kind of know what I mean. But I asked my patrons whether or not I should be doing some narrative-heavy stories or have the killer or killers tell the story in their own words. This will be one of those episodes. But as I always do a monologue for the episode, I found myself wondering how I could narrate this one. The main thing that I found amongst all the news articles and testimony is, how far would you go to protect somebody that you love? But not only that, how heinous of an act does someone have to commit for you not to protect them? A year ago, I fixed a friend's car who hit the back of a parked truck. Sure, maybe I shouldn't have done it, and maybe should have reported it to the authorities, but I'm the kind of person who likes to help someone. Granted, in the grand scheme of things, putting a minute dent in the back of a truck isn't the worst thing in the world. Yes, I did drive past the truck, and there was pretty much little to no damage done to the back of this utility truck. But to say that I'm a pushover would be an understatement. But let's say you and your partner are driving down the road, and trust me, this is bad. You hit someone's dog. Do you stop and try to check for a tag? Do you try to alert the owners? Or does the sinking feeling you get when you feel the contact make your adrenaline spike and you drive on? Meanwhile, trying to forget what had just transpired. Do you tell your partner to pull over and go back? Or do you come back later and try to find where someone's fur baby came from? Or do you try to swallow the incident and hide it, but let it fester in the back of your mind? Sure, accidents do happen, and unfortunately, there's assholes who will purposely go after an animal in the streets. But what if you found out that your partner was capable of murder? You just witnessed your loved one do quite arguably the worst thing imaginable. Hardly anybody gets into a relationship or a marriage thinking that their partner could become a murderer. It's not very common, but then, what if it happened? You watch them take the life of another person. Do you tell the authorities, or do you try to get together and figure out an escape plan of sorts to try to get them, and possibly you, off the hook? Where would you find yourself in a situation like this? That's what we're going to explore in this episode. But as always, my name is Hunter, and you're listening to Murder and Such. And this is episode 61, The Murder of Ashley Zhao. In a business spotlight from OurTown NorthCanton.com, published on August 20th of 2016, written by the website staff writer by the name of C.R. Ray, reads, "It is a love story that began at a restaurant and continues today at a local restaurant. The owners of Ang's Chinese restaurant, Mickey and Liang Zhao, run Ang's together. Their story began when Mickey was working at Liang's sister restaurant in upstate New York. His sister asked him to help out for a short time with the children while her in-laws were in China. While he was in New York, the delivery driver for the restaurant had an accident and was off work. Liang filled in for a while doing deliveries for the restaurant. Quote, "If you think about it, if that driver had not had an accident, I would have not met my wife and we would not have kids," said Liang. The couple has 2 young girls. Liang's parents had a restaurant on the corner in the same plaza, and when they were ready to no longer own the restaurant, they had called for their son to take over. He really didn't take over the restaurant. He began one at a different site in the same plaza. Ang's is located at 4924 Portage Street. With approximately 300 items on the menu, General Chicken is consistently their best seller. General chicken is pieces of white meat chicken, battered, deep fried with a brown sauce, and the spice level is up to you. It is added per customer order. Quote, "We play to the customers. If they want it spicy, we make it spicy. If they want it not spicy, we make it not spicy." Liang compared wonton soup from, say, 10 years ago to now. It used to be that Chinese restaurants would add the scallions to the meat filling. Now they just float them on top of the soup. Quote, "Some people don't want the scallions, so we leave them out of the soup for the customers that don't want them," end quote. The couple cooks together and runs the front of the restaurant as well. They make all of their own sauces. In fact, they make pretty much everything on the menu fresh, from the egg rolls to the general chicken. He said they are always changing the menu based on what customers like and what they are not ordering. They base it all on their customers. For example, a year ago, they did not have brown rice, but now they do. They also began making chicken spring rolls because people were asking if they had them. If they get enough requests for something, they will begin to make it. New items have been added since Ang's first opened. Liang said he and Mickey sit down and evaluate the menus before ordering new ones, subtracting items that are not ordered on a regular basis and adding new ones. They recently tried out mini pork spring rolls. Liang loves them, but says if you don't like ginger, you're probably not going to like them as they are very ginger heavy. Quote, "We have a lot of people that really love them," he said. Mickey noted that he eats more than anyone else. Ang's is basically a carry-out restaurant. There are a few tables for those wanting to sit down and eat, but the majority take their food home with them or back to work. They are thinking about adding some more food items that appeal to Asians. He said most restaurants serve American Chinese food, which tends to be sweeter than true Chinese dishes. The food we eat in the United States is basically made by Chinese immigrants in the 1800s with local ingredients. Quote, "They have chicken and broccoli in China, but different broccoli," end quote. The couple first opened the restaurant in September of 2011 and it is located in the same shopping center as Gander Mountain. Liang said he grew up in the family restaurant and it was really easy for him to fall into it after all these years growing up in the business. To place an order, call 330-966-8979 and 330-936-4664. They do not have a website, but do have a Facebook page. The weekly schedule is Monday, Wednesday, and Thursday, 10:30 a.m. to 9 p.m. Friday and Saturday, 10:30 a.m. to 10 p.m. Sunday, 11:30 a.m. to 9 p.m. and closed on Tuesdays. Honestly, it's a pretty good review and spotlight on that restaurant. I myself have served restaurants, including the longest tenure I had as a server was a Chinese restaurant back in Charles City, Iowa. I still love the Lucky Dragon. And I know it's pretty benign, but if you ever find yourself in Charles City, Iowa, go to the Lucky Dragon. It is by far the best Chinese food I've ever had. The fact that they can change the menus, they can put new items on there or take old items off that people aren't ordering, it's pretty good. Chinese food is by far my favorite ethnicity of food that it's my thing. So yes, I love it. Accompanied with the review is a picture of the counter and a few tables with soy sauce, salt, and pepper, with about 4 chairs around every table. A bunch of chairs are lined up against the wall, and in the middle of the floor you can see a small female child wearing blue shorts and a white shirt with some motion blur coming from her legs. Her hair is pulled back in a ponytail and looks to be running towards the bathroom. This was Ashley Zhao. Before I go any further, I would also like to say that in the Spotlight review of Ang's, Mickey was also known by the name of Ming Ming Chen, but she was still married to Liang Zhao. The Facebook page is still available, but it is no longer active. Most of the posts were just updates to whether or not the restaurant would be open on that day. The last post was written on December 17th of 2016 that read, "We will be closed today. Sorry, my wife and I are not feeling physically 100%. Due to work, we are at about 50% now. Sorry for inconveniencing anyone who planned to eat here today." There are 14 reactions, which includes 2 likes and 12 angry reacts. Another post on November 20th of 2016 read that we will be open Tuesday, November 22nd, 2016, and closed on November 24th and 25th for Thanksgiving. Happy Thanksgiving, end quote. On August 6th of 2016 said, sorry, we are closed today. But there's a lot of posts that includes the times that they'll be closed for holidays, such as the 4th of July, a bunch of posts including pictures of their new entrees, including chicken wings and a tofu and zucchini platter, but some of them were maybe a little too much information that maybe somebody shouldn't share. One that was written on November 7th of 2015 read, quote, we made an order today. After the person received the food and had one bite, she called us back and asked if there was seafood in it. She wanted her money back. We refused. We told her almost all people with food allergies are vigilant about it and mention it prior to ordering. She went on to say that it's not the point and refund my money if you want me to come back. We still refused. There was only 2 items in her entire order that had seafood in it, and she never mentioned it when she ordered. I don't believe I was wrong in this matter. She also mentioned our food was bad after I refused to refund her money, but she can tell just by one bite of one item of everything she ordered. At that point, I told her she doesn't have to order from here and we will not refund her money. So thank you for ordering today. So his transparency is kind of out there. I don't know if he was just trying to get in front of some supposed rumors that might be spreading amongst the citizens of North Canton, but if I was a business owner, I probably wouldn't go too far into details and dirt online about an unruly customer. Some of the comments were supportive, and some of the other comments were, let's just say, very dark. It seems that Liang and Mingming were sick a lot. There's numerous posts about either Liang feeling ill or Mingming, or the both of them being under the weather. One even said, quote, my wife is still not feeling well. She will try some Gas X today and see how it goes. But a lot of the posts were pretty benign. Whether it's them posting about an inspections report or a random closure or wishing customers a happy holiday or just happy 4th of July. But part of me wonders if it was all true, or maybe some of the things were a little bit fabricated. The last post that I'm going to read to you is this one. On August 28th of 2014, quote, we're very happy that many new people have joined us. We're sorry to inform you that we are closed right now. My daughter is sick. My wife and I took her to the doctors after she vomited last night. She's not feeling well enough to go to daycare today. We have to watch her. Sorry about the disruption to your plans today. We might open up later today. If we do, we will post it. Thank you, and again, sorry, end quote. But on the night of January 9th of 2017, there wasn't a phone call coming in to place an order for crab ragoon or General Tso's chicken. But one phone call came from the restaurant to the Jackson Township Police Department in North Canton, Ohio.
Jackson Township Police.
Hi, yes, I need some help.
Okay, where are you at?
4924 Portage Street.
4924 Portage?
Yeah.
Hey, what's going on?
I can't find my daughter.
The voice you are hearing is that of Liang Zhao, who had just reported that his daughter was missing.
Okay, how old is she?
5. She just turned 5. Stop it.
Okay, and you're at Ames?
Thanks, yeah.
When's the last time you seen her?
This afternoon, probably.
Around what time?
3, maybe 4.
What? So you haven't seen her in 5 hours?
You saw her in 5?
The other voice that you heard interject with the word 5 was that of Mingming Chen.
What was she wearing?
Oh, okay. What?
What was she wearing?
She's wearing a purple winter coat. I don't know what those things are called, but they're not jeans. They're like,
Like leggings?
Yeah.
What color were they?
Grayish.
Okay, and you haven't seen her in 5 hours?
About, yeah. I mean, she was there sleeping. I mean, you know.
Where was she sleeping at? In the restaurant?
Yeah. She was sleeping there, and I picked up my older daughter from school. We all saw her sleeping there. So, and you know, we went to work, and you know, we let her sleep. We got busy, and then after it got busy, you know, we started cleaning up, and then you know, we opened the door and she's not here.
Hold on 1 second, okay?
According to the weatherunderground.com website, for North Canton, Ohio, on January 9th of 2017, the high was only 28 degrees, with the low being 12 degrees. Either way, far too cold for this 5-year-old girl to be outside on her own.
We saw her, like all of us, like my wife, myself, and my older daughter. When we came back, when I picked up my older daughter from school, we saw her there sleeping.
As stated in the business spotlight from ourtown at northcanton.com, it did say that they did have 2 daughters, their older daughter being JoJo. Later in this episode, in the interrogation footage, you will hear why he specifically said that everybody saw Ashley sleeping inside the room.
Was there any suspicious people that came in at all? Do you think she could have woke up and ran out somewhere?
I have no idea. I mean, she was sleeping in the back. It's kind of hard to say when she was...
None of your employees have seen her?
There's only 2 of us, just myself and my wife. There's nobody else in the restaurant.
In my personal experience with the Chinese restaurant that I worked at, it was really just my boss, her husband, and that was pretty much the only people that were there the majority of the time. It reduces labor costs, and they know how to run the place better than anybody else.
Like, who was there with your daughter when you guys left to go get your other kids from school?
My wife. I go pick her up myself. My wife is here in the restaurant. But when we came back, she's here. Like, my wife is here, the restaurant's open. The restaurant's always open.
Now, dispatchers, their job is to convey the information that they're given through the phone call to the police department. And with this, you can almost hear the unraveling and doubt in Liang's voice as she starts questioning his own words.
I usually open up, I drop my daughter off, I drop my daughter off at school in the morning, and then we come here to open up.
Well, right now, though, like, when you left, you said you, your wife, and your daughter left to go pick up your daughter from school?
No, I didn't say that. I said, okay, I think you, okay, when we picked, I'm sorry, when I meant was myself, okay, when I went to pick up my daughter, when we came back, myself and my daughter, not my wife was here the whole time. When we came back.
So your wife hasn't seen her since around the 4 or 5 o'clock either?
So now you're hearing Liang start to question his own words. Did he say what she thought he said? Or is he getting caught up in a lie? In the next audio clip, you will hear Liang talking to Ming Ming in Mandarin, considering that is her first language.
Yes, I mean, 怎么回到要看医生啊? She says she's not sure before we got busy. Usually we get these around 4 or 5 o'clock. That's the best time we can, you know, like...
That's right. What's your daughter's name?
Ashley.
Okay.
So now they have a report of what she was wearing at the time, when they last saw her, and most importantly, the little 5-year-old girl's name. In the time that it took to obtain all of this information about Ashley, the dispatcher had already sent a unit to Ang's to try to help them find their little daughter.
Alright, my officer's outside if you want to go and meet my officer at the door, okay?
He's here right now?
Yeah, he's already outside.
In the front or the back?
He should be in the front.
Okay, alright. Okay, thank you.
Bye.
When the officer arrived on scene after about 9:45, he started asking Liang and Ming Ming where they thought she could have run off to. According to court documents, there was a 100-person manhunt that ensued going into the late hours of the night. They had not only used manpower, but also brought in drones with lenses that picked up on heat signatures to help find Ashley Zhao. Liang had discussed how Ashley liked to run off from different places, and looking at the photo I mentioned earlier, I could understand how he could come to that conclusion. Kids like to run off, maybe sometimes get into things that they shouldn't be in, and they can sometimes be little hellions. You might have kids and think that they're the perfect little angels, but we all know how kids like to do things that they shouldn't. However, it's a lot different when you have a kid out in freezing temperatures. You most definitely want to find where they ran off to. But by about 2:00 a.m., the volunteers and nearly 70 officers begrudgingly ended the search and would pick up earlier in the morning on the next day. The reports were filed in the evening, with Liang and Mingming not knowing what happened to their little daughter. Or so you think. But the next day, on January 10th of 2017, Attorney General at the time, now Governor of Ohio, Mike DeWine, had released a missing persons and Amber Alert to the local and state authorities at around noon to attempt to find Ashley. The report from WSYX out of Columbus had read, quote, "A statewide endangered child alert was issued for Ashley Zhao Tuesday morning. Authorities say the little girl was last seen at Ang's Cuisine restaurant on Portage Street in Northwest Canton on Monday at around 5:00 p.m. Her mother says that Ashley went to lay down, and when she went to go wake her up around 9:30, the little girl was missing. Ashley Zhao was last seen wearing a purple winter coat and gray leggings. Police say the 5-year-old is believed to be in danger. Ashley is described as being 4 foot tall and weighing 35 pounds. She has black hair and brown eyes. If you have any information, you can contact local authorities or the Regional Emergency Center at 330-837-9346. These police officers, these volunteers, and people that actually knew Liang and Mingming all volunteered their time to try and find this little girl. But if you have let's say a very dark palette of things that you like watching, like, let's say Forensic Files or Who the Bleep Did I Marry, you know that when somebody goes missing or they're found murdered, they always start looking at people who are the closest with that person. So with that, they started searching around Ang's, and the authorities found the answer that they hoped they would never find, and their worst nightmares finally came true. Before we move further in this episode, I need to rewind a bit and start discussing the morning of January 9th. The morning Liang had called and reported his daughter was missing. Stress is almost tangible. There's many factors in life that can bring you down, cause headaches, etc. Everything and anything can cause someone stress or anxiety. With Mingming, she hit her tipping point this morning. It may not be customary with a lot of cultures, but there is a number of Asian backgrounds who send their children to live with their grandparents for extended periods of time. When I worked at the Chinese restaurant back home, my bosses sent their son to Indonesia to live with his grandparents for a while so my bosses could work, make money, and it relieved a bit of stress for them. I'm not saying that every single family does this, but to say that none of them do this would be factually inaccurate. Ashley was sent to mainland China to live with Liang's parents for nearly 4 years. It's a trip for not only the parents to focus on their work and their business, but also a way for the child to learn the culture, have grandparents focus on them, and a way to show appreciation and love if their grandparents don't live just down the street from the child's parents. I can only assume that Ashley grew up in the same way that Liang was raised, in a loving, caring, nurturing home for all of those years, and then finally, she was sent back to live with her parents and grow with them for the next about 18 years or so. But one thing that Ashley was never really taught was proper potty training. Now, why the hell would I bring up potty training? It sounds minuscule, sure, but accidents happen. However, according to the Mayo Clinic's website, some parents can start potty training their kids by the ages of 18 to 24 months old, and then some can even wait until they're about 3 years old before developing proper potty training. Ashley was 4 when she had come back to the United States, and even after her 5th birthday, she was still not potty trained and was still using diapers. Their other daughter, JoJo, was potty trained by this time in her age, but this only added more stress to Ming Ming as she questioned what the hell was going on overseas with Liang's parents, as she now had to take care of Ashley's soiled diapers. Now here in Liang's own words from the interrogation footage is what happened on the morning of January 9th.
Okay, yesterday morning, we got up, we prepped JoJo for school. I took JoJo to school. I came back. When I came back, my wife was very angry with Ashley because she peed on her diaper and she pooped on her diaper. I know this doesn't sound like a big deal, but she's 5 years old and she's not potty trained, like, ever. And I'll explain that a little later. But so that got my wife angry, and said a few things like, you're this old, you're 5 years old, you still don't know how to go potty and poopy. And my wife was in the room and she was outside in the living room. After she pooped and potty in a diaper, my wife knows that she has issues with potty training, so she was going to fine, but then she took off her diaper again. So that got my wife angry. And so, when you're 5 years old, you still don't know how to poop and potty. And my wife got angry and hit her head on the carpet, 2 times. And initially she was breathing. She was still breathing then. And
I know that the interrogation footage is kind of hard to listen to, but what he had just explained was that Ashley was not potty trained, and she had defecated and peed in her diaper. She then took off her diaper, which obviously the contents fell out, and that is when Ming Ming hit her daughter in the head and then proceeded to bash her head onto the carpet, in which she was still breathing after that point. Here's what Ming Ming said.
Ming Ming, your daughter's dead. What happened? How did she die?
Just kill her, and then she died.
Did you hit her?
Yeah.
Okay. How'd you hit her?
How?
Yeah.
Use your hand to do that?
Okay.
Liang had said that he had taken JoJo to school. When he came back at around 9 o'clock in the morning, he had found Ming Ming bashing Ashley's head against the floor. He checked her for a pulse. He found that she was still breathing and she still had a pulse. So not knowing what he needed to do, he put her in her bedroom and then came back later and found her.
She stopped, but I didn't realize she stopped. I thought she was breathing normally now because she was gasping, like it was. I can't really remember or recall exactly what, but it was a lot heavier than normal. So it sounded like a snore almost. So at that point she stopped. I thought, okay, so she's breathing normally now. So didn't really pay attention to it. And then a little later, I went to hold her and just didn't feel right. And I checked her heart. It stopped beating. So I started panicking and I tried to do CPR on her, try to breathe in her mouth and give her chest compressions. I don't exactly know how long I did that for. I know I did it for a pretty darn long time, maybe 15 minutes to half an hour or something like that. And that's when we realized she's gone. Like I tried and...
To somebody who may not be familiar with cases like this, the snoring that he was hearing was agonal breathing. That is, the body's attempt at trying to get any oxygen it can to their brain. I will say that with Liang actually finding her and trying to do chest compressions from, as he said, 15 minutes to a half an hour, he did try to make an attempt at saving his 5-year-old daughter. But Ming Ming was a lot more cold and calloused. I can't say what it's like for something like that to run through somebody's head, and everybody has different ways of trying to rationalize some of the worst circumstances. But it almost seemed like Ming Ming didn't have any remorse for what she did.
I only take care of everything from the restaurant. I only have 2 hands. I'm not 4 hands girl. I'm 2 hands. I don't want to do that to Ashley, but you can control yourself sometimes.
There isn't a whole lot of the interrogation footage of Ming Ming Chen. But from what you can hear in the interrogation footage in this episode, she's almost rationalizing it because she's busy, she's stressed, she's dealing with the business, and as she said, she's not a 4-handed girl, and she needed Liang to help cover up what she had just done to her 5-year-old daughter. So if you're anything like me, you're probably wondering where they found Ashley Zhao. Well, after a night of searching with over 100 volunteers and law enforcement officers, they started looking closer into the family. According to a report, the police were suspicious of Ming Ming because she was showing little to no emotion when they started up the next day. The police first approached the family at their home, located mere miles away from Ang's restaurant. When they updated them on the status of the search, it seemed like Liang was extremely nervous and Ming Ming was almost cold. She had verbally lashed out at the police for not finding her daughter, but to that extent, the police started setting forward a plan to check every single source that they could. So they searched around the house, and honestly, they didn't find much of anything. No signs of this missing girl. But to their surprise, they already had investigators at Ang's restaurant searching the area for any traces of where she could have gone. Today, the area in which Ang's restaurant was located inside the strip mall is currently vacant, and it's probably for a good reason. There is a Pet Supplies Plus store to the left and a Harrison Paint store to the right. There is a sign in the window stating that the spot is for lease with a contact number listed. But maybe superstition is the reason why they haven't found a new tenant. And that superstition is because the day after Ashley Zhao went missing, investigators checked every nook and cranny that they could. The walk-in refrigerator, the freezer, the bathrooms and back rooms, and they even took samples of materials that were in the back room that they had the cot that they said Ashley was sleeping on. After they found nothing of where Ashley could have gone, the investigators found something a little more suspicious. A ceiling tile that appeared to have been disturbed. If you ever want to go play detective sometime, go to a place that has some of those lowered ceiling tiles in it. Do any of them look suspicious? Like maybe not sitting properly in the slots that it's supposed to sit in, or maybe one that is somewhat cleaner than the other ones, as if maybe somebody's hands were on it, or maybe a handprint in the middle to lift it out of its place. That's what the detectives found with a few of these ceiling tiles. So they located a ladder that was in the back storage area, then ascended it to move the ceiling tiles away from their slots. And that is when they found a large bin that was filled with salt, balanced upright on top of their walk-in freezer. Inside of the bin, they found 5-year-old Ashley Zhao, lifeless and covered in salt, located mere yards from where they reported her missing. But how did Ashley's body make it from their house to the restaurant?
How do you get Ashley to the restaurant?
Put her in a car seat.
Did you carry her out to the car?
Yeah.
Did she have her jacket on?
Yes.
Okay. Your daughter, did you carry her in?
Yes. Okay. Yes. They saw me.
Okay. Yeah.
Yeah, there was 2 guys on the roof. Working on the roof or something. something like that. And we brought her inside, and we just laid her there, and we just continued our work. The plan was for Jojo to come home and see her there to verify that she's there, and then I would hide her up in on top of the walk-in freezer. And then when we called the police at night, Jojo could verify that she was there. So.
Did you guys also make noise when we're going out the back door? Because Jojo said she thought she heard a noise and her sister might have went out the back door.
No, that Jojo, she's not a liar, but she's 6. And when you lean her towards something, that's where she goes. And she's not a liar. She doesn't lie to people, but she is 6. When you point her at a direction, that's where she's going to go.
Well, where was Jojo? Okay, so how long did you leave Ashley laying in the bed?
I got to the restaurant at 10 till about 7, 6 or 7. Okay. 6 or 7. She was lying there. Jojo saw her.
Again, I apologize for the quality of the audio, but what Liang had just said was that he carried Ashley out in her winter coat, put her in a car seat, and arrived at the restaurant at about 10 o'clock in the morning that they reported her missing. You also heard where I mentioned before that he used Jojo as an alibi. What Liang and Ming had done was they put her lifeless body, covered up, on the cot in the back room, and when they brought Jojo to the restaurant later, she could verify that Ashley was in the restaurant. He said that Jojo, if he pointed in a certain direction, she would go there, so he pointed her towards the back room where Ashley was supposedly sleeping. And after she saw her, that is when Liang grabbed Ashley, put her inside of a salt container, and put that inside of the fridge for countless hours. But after work started winding down for the night, is when Liang grabbed Ashley inside of the bin, grabbed the ladder from the back room, ascended the ladder, and placed the bin on top of the freezer. But as I mentioned in the earlier part of this episode, how far would you go to protect someone that you loved? How far would you go to protect your family, protect your livelihood, maybe even just protect your freedom? What was Liang so afraid of that he went to the extents that he did to hide the body of his now deceased daughter?
I kind of wish it didn't happen this way. Not both of us are in really big trouble. But yeah, I wanted to send her away and, call the police. But then, both of us were afraid of what was going to happen. If we did, we were afraid that we were going to lose our daughter, we were going to lose our family, the restaurant, the house that we're getting, everything in our lives that we worked so hard for the past 6 years. This was going to be gone.
Liang had stated that he was afraid of what was going to happen to Ming Ming. And the other thing about that is that Ming Ming hadn't fully acquired her citizenship in the United States, so he was afraid that they were going to actually send her back home to mainland China. He was afraid that they were going to lose everything that they had worked so hard for the past 6 years, including the restaurant, his house, the family, even though the family had already just been torn apart with the death of Ashley Zhao. His main focus was trying to keep what little of his family that he had left together. But then the investigators started asking Liang what would have happened if they had never found Ashley's body on top of the cooler. and this is what he had to say.
What were your plans to do after maybe we quit looking for her? What were you going to do?
We don't really know. Those three things: I burn it, bury it, or throw it in the ocean. Those are the only three things that we can think of. And
Liang just discussed disposing of his daughter's body by burning it, burying it, or throwing it into the ocean. He then went on to describe his doubts about disposing of her body in such a gruesome way.
Let's say that I went through with this and I didn't get caught, I'm going to be looking over my shoulder for I don't know how long. You know? There's a dead body there. You know, that I have to eventually get rid of. And if you put it in the ocean, the tides can wash it back. If you bury it, wild animals can get at it, someone can find it. If you burn it, there's a chance that someone's going to see you because it's going to be a big flame. You're not going to do it during the day, and you're going to be doing it during the night. So when you're burning a big flame at night, someone's going to see you. We thought about all of this, and honestly, we weren't really too sure on what to do after that.
Love is a tricky thing. The love that Liang had for Ming Ming was something to be admired. This was his wife of many years, the mother of both of his daughters. And he defends her in a way that doesn't justify her actions, but merely talks about how he knows that she is a good person, that she had never been physically abusive with Jojo or even Ashley before that point. This is kind of hard to listen to, but here's that.
My wife, she's not a bad person. She's not. I mean, you know, I married her. I wouldn't marry her if she was physically abusive in the beginning. You can see my daughter, my Jojo, she's 6 years old. We took care of both of us for 6 years. Not one time did my wife physically abuse her, you know, out of anger or anything like that. You know, we spanked her, you know.
Right.
Yeah.
Correct her. Yeah, she did something wrong.
Yeah, but nothing like, you know, the bruises on her, you know, all over the place that you found on Ashley. My wife is a good person. I know it's very hard to believe, you know, seeing Ashley, but look at Jojo. Look at Jojo, you know, she's a good person. She's a good mother. She just has problems.
Now, I personally am not married, and I do not have any children. But I've heard cases of people who, let's say, you get married, you have a child, and let's say you are the mother of that child. How would you take criticism? Because later in the interrogation footage, Liang starts talking about his mother and her interactions with Ming Ming. With Ashley only being in their care for a single year, Ming Ming started getting phone calls about the right way and wrong way to raise Ashley, including some very, very critical criticisms of Ming Ming's parenting abilities, her motherly attitude, and the way that his mother would raise her compared to the way that Ming Ming was supposed to raise her. Liang does not justify her actions of what she did to Ashley, but he talks about the power struggle between his mother and his wife.
But then my mom, constantly, every which way. I know I sound like I'm placing blame, but I'm just telling you what happened.
Okay.
I know I sound like I'm placing blame from my wife's condition, but I'm just telling you what happened. You know, that's at that one time. She came down, she visited, my wife let that go. That's fine. She was a little angered by that. She was a little pissed off about it. But then my wife would tell my aunt and my grandmother to tell my wife the same thing. You know, my mom would do that until we go to constantly check up on Ashley, make sure that she's okay, stuff like that. It was just go on forever. It was up to a point where we had to tell my mom, stop calling us. You know, don't send people here anymore. nobody comes visit us. My mom never calls me, ever. Like, you can check my phone records. My phone records is your life. I don't talk a lot with my mom. But then, when Ashley got here, constantly calling, oh, you're doing this wrong, stuff like that, yada, yada, yada. So, that kind of got to my wife. Because, it's your own daughter, and then there's your mother-in-law telling you that you're not doing it right. You're not doing it what you're supposed to do.
I can definitely sense some personal conflict with Liang in his interrogation video, because he's at a power struggle between his own mother and his wife about how to take care of their 5-year-old daughter. Nothing will justify what Ming Ming did to Ashley. That is the 100% truth. But how would you feel about your in-laws criticizing every single move that you have with one of your children? Would that anger you? But how would you control that anger? Let's say hypothetically, you sent your child away for 4 years and then came back and spent 1 year with them and they weren't potty trained. How would you control that anger? Or would you turn it into love and passion and a sense of understanding that maybe the child is not developing the way that they should be? A little bit of personal opinion here is I was spanked as a child. I had a rocky relationship with both of my parents. I can say now that, as I said in one of the last episodes, my dad is one of my best friends. But the way that I look at things now is I see spanking as barbaric and as a way to instill fear in your child's mind. I don't see it as productive, and I can honestly say that my relationship with my father has grown over most of my adulthood, whereas my childhood, I resented my father. I was in fear of him, both him and my mother, but I never lost respect for them. And I don't think that spanking is something that you should be doing with children as compared to, let's say, a timeout, where they take some time out and then you come at them and you talk about it and how you feel. But everybody is different. Everybody rationalizes and they live with their anger in certain ways that they can either try to nullify it or they lash out. And with Ming Ming, it seemed the lashing out at Ashley was something that was happening long before she took Ashley's life.
Why didn't you ever report the abuse to law enforcement?
I was worried. Scared that I was going to take my wife away.
Well, how bad? I mean, what kind of abuse are we talking?
It's not like initially so bad. If it was initially so bad, I would probably report it, but just, it worked.
Escalated?
Yeah, and then at that point I was like, she got so much bruises on her, I can't call it in anymore.
Well, would she twist her arm? Would she kick her? Would she hit her? What happened?
Oh, pretty much all of it, twist her arm, kick her, hit her.
But never touched JoJo?
No, not once. And not like, she just sees her and just pisses her off, push her down the stairs or something. It's always when Ashley does something, and that's her trigger. My mom tells my wife that she's raising kids wrong, and then every single time Ashley does something that reminds my wife of what my mom said, like her doing something not a 5-year-old should do, that's pretty much a trigger. It's like,
I've never claimed that I am somewhat morally superior to other people, but it sounded like everything was targeted towards Ashley. As Liang said, she would never hit JoJo. She would never target JoJo. But a mere month after Ashley arrived back in the US is when everything started unfolding, and Ming Ming started lashing out at Ashley. But after Liang's confession to the investigators, he actually had a few questions of his own.
Do you know what's going to happen to my wife? I mean, I understand she's going to get locked up, but is it like a regular jail, or she's going to get
jail
I mean, it
right now.
would just go to the regular jail.
It has to go through court and everything.
I think she needs some help. I think she needs some help.
That'll be between her and her attorney and the judges. That's not for us to decide.
Yeah. And you guys know how long I'm going to get left up for? Approximately.
I don't know.
3 years? 3 years?
I don't know.
Are we talking like decades or years?
I can't be honest with you. I'm not sure. We need to talk to our prosecutor, and then we'll go from there.
Even after saying everything that he had just told them, the abuse, the violence, hiding the body, all of this to protect his wife, he still emphasized how much she needed help. He was curious how long she would be spending in jail. He was curious how long he would be spending in jail. But most of all, he wanted to know what was going to happen with his other daughter, JoJo.
Do I have a choice on how JoJo is raised? Matt said that I can have her in foster care instead of being raised by my parents.
You don't want your family to come get her?
No, I don't want her to be raised by my parents.
Do you have any family? No family at all? You want
They're close, but I don't want them. I'm not close to my dad.
Well, they'll probably go to see Child Protective Services right now, and that'll all be worked out later, and they will talk to you. You know.
There's 2 people that possibly, but they don't know her. They saw her maybe like 2 times since she was born.
Are they relatives?
My sisters. They're okay people, but I still don't trust them. One of them I do, just that my mom's going to get so much access to her. I don't want that.
Well, then, I mean, and I'm sure CPS will talk to you about it, because, you know.
Because I don't want JoJo. I mean, I know she thinks that was going to be probably not going to get affected by my mom like that, but still, I don't want my mom.
In my personal opinion, which I do kind of give that out on these episodes, I think that Liang is a victim in this case. I think the main culprit in this case is definitely Ming Ming, because she is the one who killed her own daughter. I don't think Liang wanted any of this, and I'm goddamn sure that JoJo didn't want to lose her sister. But it really goes to show how much he cared about his family, his daughter, and everything else, because he's still afraid of what could happen to his other daughter, JoJo. Nobody expects these things to happen. Nobody wants to kill their child. But unfortunately, that's how this story ended. With the Tim Lambesis episode, I tried to emphasize as much as I could about domestic violence. It's not just for a partner to be beaten by another partner, but domestic violence also happens between 2 partners and their children. And you should never be afraid of speaking out or getting help for somebody who is helpless, who doesn't know right from wrong. Whether it's a partner, a child, an elderly person, anybody who's a loved one, please, if you need help, please check out the Domestic Violence Hotline, which you can live chat with somebody at thehotline.org, or you can place a phone call to 1-800-799-7233. And if you find yourself in a moment of peril or terror for not only your own life or someone else's, you can call or text 911 to get immediate help. Because nobody should have to live in fear. Nobody should have to be abused. Please use this hotline, or if you know somebody who needs it, pass that information off to them. That's www.thehotline.org, or you can call 1-800-799-7233. So after the interrogation and Liang's confession, on January 10th of 2017, Ming Ming Chen was booked and charged with murder in the second degree and felonious assault. Liang Zhao was charged with complicity to murder and complicity to felonious assault, with both being held in the jail on $5 million bond. After their first charges, a grand jury had also decided to indict them on several more. They added the additional charges of 2 counts of child endangerment, tampering with evidence, obstruction of justice, and gross abuse of a corpse. Stark County prosecuting attorney by the name of John Ferraro had stated that, quote, "Anytime you have a child victim, everybody takes it very personally, as well as the whole community, not just my office. And we saw the outpouring from the community when the child was reported missing. It's something that strikes a nerve because it's a child." A translator who is fluent in English and Mandarin had to work on Ming Ming's trial with her since English was not her first language, and she needed to understand the gravity of the crimes she was now facing. To answer the question that Liang had for the investigators, there was a custody hearing on January 12th of 2017 in which JoJo was placed in child protective custody during the trial. After multiple extensions, they were both scheduled to go on trial together on September 11th of 2017. But when it began, Ming Ming Chen had pleaded not guilty by reason of insanity. They had also stated that Ming Ming had waived her request for not only an attorney, but also a translator during police questioning, and the defense requested that her interrogation audio also be thrown out as inadmissible. Liang Zhao had actually pled guilty to the charges of abuse of a corpse and obstruction of justice to the Stark County Common Pleas Court. When everything was said and done, Ming Ming Chen was handed down a 22-year sentence in prison on December 29th of 2017 after she finally pled guilty and the plea of insanity did not work out. Considering her citizenship here in America, when she finishes out her sentence and is released in the year 2040, she will be deported back to China. With Liang Zhao, he was handed down a 12-year sentence in January of 2018 after giving an emotional statement to the judge presiding over his case. He will be eligible for release in the year 2030. Now, the community was shocked when their sentences were announced. Some of the residents of Canton and Stark County were outraged that Ming Ming wasn't given the death penalty, but that was taken off the table as she pled guilty to murder in exchange and was told about her deportation after she is released. The community was also outraged as Liang, considering the night of Ashley's disappearance into the morning, he had attended a memorial service in hopes of bringing Ashley home safely. He and Ming Ming both attended this, with both of them praying that she would be found, but nobody in the group was wiser that the very people they were supporting knew exactly where she was. So, what would you do in a scenario like this to protect someone? Is blood thicker than love? I just hope that you never have to find yourself in the same scenario that Liang did with the murder of Ashley Zhao. Now, I want to throw out a thank you again to all of my new supporters on Patreon at patreon.com/murderandsuch, and those of you for just supporting me by, listening to the show. Be sure to follow Murder and Such on Instagram, Twitter, and Facebook at Murder and Such. Also, feel free to drop a 5-star review on Apple Podcasts for me. Just say something like, how about, "I love powdered donut pancake surprise." That should be fun. But don't forget to follow me on Instagram, Twitter, the PlayStation Network, and Snapchat at Huntor27. But thank you for taking the time out of your day to listen to this case, and as always, I will talk to you soon.